Daf Yomi, Tractate Sanhedrin, page 37a, top of the page with the words V'shalosh Shuros Shel Talmidei Chachamim Yoshvin Lifnehem. Actually, this is in the middle of a Mishnah, so it might be a good idea to start from the bottom of 36b, from the start of the Mishnah. That's a good idea. So we're actually at the bottom of 36b with the Mishnah. Sanhedrin Haisa Kechatzi Goren Agula Kedei Shiyu Ro'in Ze et Ze Ushne Sofrei Hadayonin Omdim Lifnehem Echad Miyamin Ve'echad Mismol V'chotvim Divrei Mechayavin V'divrei Mezakin. רבי יהודה אומר שלושה, אחד כותב דברי המזכין ואחד כותב דברי המחייבים והשלישי כותב דברי המזכין ודברי המחייבים. So the Mishnah says that a Sanhedrin of 23 was arranged in the same layout as half of a circular threshing floor in order that all the judges will see one another and the witnesses. And the two judges' scribes stand before the court, one on the right and one on the left. And they write the statements of those who find the accused liable and the statements of those who acquit the accused. Rabbi Yehuda says there were three scribes. One writes only the statements of those who acquit the accused. One writes only the statements of those who find him liable. And the third writes both the statements of those who acquit the accused and the statements of those who find him liable, so that if there is uncertainty concerning the precise wording that one of the scribes writes, it can be compared to the words of the third scribe. Okay, interesting. That brings us to the top of 37a. V'shalosh shurot shel talmidei chachamim Yoshvin lifnehem, kol echad ve'echad makir et mikomo. And 3 rows of Torah scholars sit before the judges, and each and every one among those sitting recognizes his place. Meaning, they are seated in accordance with their stature. Hu tzrechu lismoch somchin min harishona, echad min hashniya bo ba lo rishona. אחד מן השלישית בא לו לשנייה, בוררים להן עוד אחד מן הקהל ומושיבין אותו בשלישית, ולא היה יושב במקומו של ראשון אלא יושב במקום הראוי לו. When the court must ordain an additional judge, for example, if a judge dies during the proceedings, or in the case of a court without a decisive majority, see 40a, the court ordains the greatest Torah scholar from the first row. A seat in the first row is now vacant. One Torah scholar from the second row comes to the first row, and one Torah scholar from the third row comes to the second row. And the court selects another Torah scholar from among the assembled, and they sit him in the third row. And this Torah scholar who moves from the second row to the first row would not sit in the place of the first Torah scholar who joined the court. Rather, he would sit in the place appropriate for him, meaning at the end of that row, in accordance with his stature. The Talmud states, B'nahani mili. Gemara. The Mishnah teaches that the Sanhedrin would sit in a semicircle. From where are these matters derived? How do we know these things? Amar Rav Yaakov bar Chanina, Demar Kra, Sharerach Agana Sahar Al Yechsar Mazeg. Rabbi Abba bar Chanina says, as the verse states, your navel is like a round goblet. Let no mingled wine be wanting. Your belly is like a heap of wheat. set about with lilies. Song of Songs 7:3. Shararech zu Sanhedrin. למה נקרא שמו שררך? שהיא יושבת בטיבורו של עולם. אגן, שהיא מגינה על כל העולם כולו. הסהר, שהיא דומה לסהר. This verse is interpreted as referring to the members of the Sanhedrin who sits in a semicircle. Your navel, this is an allusion to the Sanhedrin. And why is it called, by way of allusion, your navel? It is because he sits in the navel of the world, in the temple. Goblet, Agan. This teaches that the Sanhedrin protects, Magina, the entire world with its merit. Round, Hashar, Asahar. This teaches that the Sanhedrin is similar to the moon, Sahar. The court sits in a semicircle like the shape of the moon. Well, at least at one point of its cycle. Okay. Al Yechsar Hamazeg. A semicircle. Yeah, it's a semicircle for a good portion of its. Yeah. Al Yechsar Hamazeg. שאם הוצרך אחד מהם לצאת, רואים אם יש 23 כנגד סנהדרי קטנה, יוצא ואם לאו אינו יוצא. Let no mingled wine be wanting. This compares Sanhedrin to wine mixed with water, which typically involve mixing 2 parts water with 1 part wine. This teaches that if one member of the Great Sanhedrin needed to leave, they see if there are still present in the chamber of hewn stone 23 members, meaning a third of the judges, corresponding to the number of a lesser Sanhedrin. He may leave, but if not, he may not leave. Bitnech aremat chitim. Your belly is like a heap of wheat. The phrase, your belly is like a heap of wheat. My aremas chitim akor nehenim mimena, av Sanhedrin akor nehenim metamehen. Suga b'shoshanim, she'afilu k'suga shoshanim, lo yifchutzu b'hen pratzos. It teaches that as regard to a heap of wheat, all derive benefit from it. So too with regard to the Sanhedrin, all derive benefit from their explanations of the Torah. The phrase set about with lilies is said in praise of the Jewish people, as they do not breach even offense made of lilies, since the Jewish people observe both Torah law as well as rabbinic ordinances and decrees. Okay. Very nice. Okay. And this, v'hainu d'amal, le ahahu mina, l'rav kahana, amritu nida shari lichudi b'hai gavra, ef she'ish ben oires, ve'eno mehaveves, אמר לי, התוירה העידה עלינו סוגה בשושנים, שאפילו כסוגה בשושנים לא יפרצו בהן פרצויס. And this is like an incident involving Rav Kahana. As a certain heretic said to Rav Kahana, you say that it is permitted for a menstruating woman to seclude herself with a man, meaning her husband. Is it possible to set fire to chips of kindling and not have them blaze and burn? he's making a reference to how can the couple be relied upon not to engage in sexual intercourse. Rav Kahana said to him, the Torah testifies concerning us that we are set about with lilies. As the Jewish people, do not breach even a fence made of lilies. Meaning that, we trust him to do the right thing. ריש לקיש אמר מהכה, כפלח הרימון רעתך, אפילו ריקונן שבך, מלאים מצוות כרימון. כפלח הרימון רעתך. כפלח הרימון רעתך equals 1159. אפילו ריקונין. Right. רב זיר אמר מהכה וירח את ריח בגדיו, אל תראה בגדיו אלא בגדיו. Reish Lakish says that the source to rely on them is not to transgress from here. Your temples are like a pomegranate split open, Songs 6:7, which teaches that even the empty people among you are as full of mitzvot as the pomegranate is full of seeds. Zera says that the source is from here. The verse states concerning occasion when Isaac blessed Jacob, and he smelled the smell of his garments, and he blessed him and said, see, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. Genesis 27:27. Do not read his garments, rather read his traitors, meaning that even traitors and sinners among the Jewish people will have qualities as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. It's not so clear. It's not as explicit. But it's a drasha nonetheless. Hanahu b'riyoini dehavu b'shivevuse derabizero dehavi mekablu kiyechi dinadaru luhu b'tiyufte v'havi kap dirabanan kinach nafshe derabizero amri Ad ha'idena have charika katin shake dehave bai alan rachame hashtaman bai alan rachame harharu belibayu ve'avdu tshuva. Before I say the English, I just want to say that, I was just saying it wasn't as clear. It wasn't as clear to me. Let's put it that way. Reb Zera's explanation, but it wasn't me. It doesn't mean that's not clear. It means to me it wasn't as clear. I had a hard time understanding it. But okay. Now the next one. The Talmud says that the Gemara relates that there are certain hooligans, Biryoni, who are living in the neighborhood of Rabbi Zera. He brought them close, meaning he treated them with friendship in order to cause them to repent of their sins. But the other sages disapproved of his actions. When Rabbi Zera died, those hooligans said, until now, there was the short one with singed legs, Rabbi Zera, who would pray for compassion for us. Who will pray for compassion for us now? They thought about this in their hearts and repented. Ultimately, Rabbi Zera's actions were proven correct, as they repented. Nice. Shalosh Shurois Amar Abaya Shmamino Ki Naidi Kulinaidi ולמלוא עדית נהווה יסיבן ורשת השתם בסיבלי בנדבי בד נבי אמר אביי דאמרי לאחי, הבי זנב לאריוס, ואל תהי ראש לשועלים. The Mishnah teaches that there are 3 rows of Torah scholars who sit before the court. And if one Torah scholar from the first row is elevated to a place on the court, the Torah scholar in the first positions of the second row is moved to the final position of the first row. Abaye says, learn from the Mishnah, that when they move, meaning when Torah scholars need to move, as a result of one of them being elevated to the court, they all move. The Gemara inquires, but let the one being moved from the first position of the second row to the last position of the first row say to the court, until now I was sitting at the head of the row, but now you are seating me at the tail, at the end of a row. Abaye said in explanation, that is not a valid claim, as the court can say this to him, but be a tail to the lions, and do not be a head to the foxes. Avot 4:15, meaning that it is preferable to be the least among great people than the greatest among lesser people. Okay, the end of that new Mishnah. Ketzad ma'amin asa edim al edei nefashos ahayu machnisin oisan ume'amin alehen shemataram ume'omed mishmua ad mipi ed ומפי האדם נאמן שמה אתם יודעים שסופנו לבדוק אתכם בדרישה ובחקירה. The Mishnah says, how does the court intimidate the witnesses in giving testimony for cases of capital law? They would bring the witnesses in and intimidate them by saying to them, perhaps what you say in your testimony is based on conjecture, or perhaps it is based on a rumor. Perhaps it is testimony based on hearsay. For example, like you heard a witness testify to this in a different court. Or perhaps it is based on the statement of a trusted person. Perhaps you do not know that ultimately we examine you with inquiry and interrogation. And if you are lying, your lie will be discovered. Haviyodin shalokidin mamos din nefashos. Dini mamos adonois din mamos chapeloi. Dini nefashos damo v'dam zarioisav taluyin boi ad sof ha'olam. The court tells them you should know that cases of capital law are not like cases of monetary law. In case of monetary law, a person who testifies falsely, causing money to be given to the wrong party, can give the money to the proper owner and his sin is atoned for. In cases of capital law, if one testifies falsely, the blood of the accused and the blood of his offspring that he did not merit to produce are ascribed to the witness's testimony until eternity. Shekain matzinu b'kayin shaharag es achiv shneimar damei achicha tzoakim. Interesting. Damei achicha tzoakim 403. Eino omer dam achicha, ela damei achicha. Damo v'dam zari oisav. Davar achar damei achicha shahaya damo mishulach al ha'etzim alavanim. Okay. The proof for this is as we found with Cain, who killed his brother, as it is stated concerning him, the voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Genesis 4:10. The verse does not state your brother's blood, dam in the singular, but rather your brother's blood, demei. In the plural, this serves to teach that the loss of both his brother's blood and the blood of his brother's offspring are ascribed to Cain. The Mishnah notes, alternatively, the phrase your brother's blood, written in the plural, teaches that his blood was not gathered in one place, but was splattered on the trees and on the stones. Lefichach nifa adam yichidi lanach shekol ama b'nefesh achad Yisrael male alav akasu kilu ibed la'olam male v'chol mekayim nefesh achad Yisrael male alav akasu kilu kayim olam male. The court tells the witness, therefore Adam, the first man, was created alone to teach you with regard to anyone who destroys one soul from the Jewish people, for example, kills one Jew, the verse ascribes him blame as if he destroyed an entire world, as Adam was one person from whom the population of the entire world came forth. And conversely, anyone who sustains one soul from the Jewish people, the verse ascribes him credit as if he sustained an entire world. ופני שלום הבריות, שלא יאמר אדם לחברו, אבא גדול מאביך, ושלא יהיו המינים אומרים הברשוס בשמיים. The Mishnah states another reason Adam, the first man, was created alone. And this was done due to the importance of maintaining peace among people, so that one person will not say to another, my father, my progenitor is greater than your father. And it was also so that the heretics who believe in multiple gods will not say, there are many authorities in heaven, and each created a different person. Ulenahagid gedulato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu she'adam tov v'kamed b'mat bois b'chois v'mechad kulam nomin zeh u'melech malchei melachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu tava kol adam b'chotamo shel adam harishon ve'en echad mehem dome lechavero לפיכך כל אחד ואחד חייב לומר בשבילי נברא העולם. And this serves to tell the greatness of the Holy One, blessed be He, as when a person stamps several coins with one seal, they are all similar to each other, but the Supreme King of Kings, the Holy One, blessed be He, stamped all people with the seal of Adam, the first man, as all of them are his offspring, and not one of them is similar to another. Therefore, since all humanity descends from one person, each and every person is obligated to say, the world was created for me, as one person can be the source of all humanity and recognize the significance of his actions. When the court says to the witnesses, and perhaps you will say,